Hi, Maria Mandarino here, and thank you for being here. Today we're going to talk about the Enneagram, and I'm going to kind of give you a couple of scenarios of how two types that are not Enneagram informed and are coming from their shadow might interact in the workplace setting. Can be any work setting. I tend to think my background is a little more hospital based, grant based. So that's kind of where my frame of reference is coming. But you can really put this onto any scenario in the workplace. But before we jump into this little exercise today, I want to remind you to please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Not everybody that's watching is a subscriber, and if you would be kind enough to click that subscribe button, I can't tell you how much it helps. So if you would do that, share, please comment, offer your thoughts at the end of the episode. I would really be grateful for that. All right, so let's jump into the scenario, and I picked an Enneagram 4 with a 3 wing for this example. And as well, I also picked an Enneagram 3 with a 2 wing. Um, so we have two people in a work setting who should be working together, supporting each other's, positions and helping each other with each other's goals. And where they're going to meet is really at the 3 point, right? Because the 3 has a 4 wing, or rather the 3 has a 2 wing, and the 4 has a 3 wing. So they have the 3 energy in common, right? So to me, as I'm also an acupuncturist as well as a spiritual director, so if you've been watching for a while, you know that I look at the Enneagram as energetics. It's just a different way of dealing with energetics. Um, so let's look at this type 3. Now, type 4 rather. So in this example, both people are unhealthy in their Enneagram type. They're in their shadow. They don't know anything about the Enneagram. And these are adults. Obviously, they're in the work setting, in a professional setting. Okay. So we have this organization that is, let's say the department is being led by this unhealthy type 4. So the 4 is known as the romantic or the individualist, right? They're creative people, they're deep feelers. They like to make deep, soulful connections. They also are typically creative, like to be thought of as being unique. They enjoy that unique kind of position in their relationships. They believe that they see things differently or see things that others can't see, a depth that others can't see. And depending on how Enneagram informed or not someone is, right? This can take on a whole other energy. And that's what we're looking at with this example. Okay. So we're not talking about higher self at all. Okay. So we have somebody who regards themselves as special, wants to be seen as special, wants to be seen as unique, um, maybe a little controlling, um, highly creative, as I mentioned, and so creative that they can't ask for help. Because here's what the unhealthy 4 is probably going to experience. Their creativity is so far beyond what anybody else can sense and feel and experience and see. No one else could ever be as creative as they are. So they're not going to be as willing to share any of the spotlight or hand over the reins for a partnership. Again, this is somebody coming from the lower side of type. Okay. So if you're here for the higher side of 4, we're not doing that today. But this is going to be an example of intensity, basically, that we're going to be looking at in two people that are unhealthy. So this person also enjoys attention, the creative spotlight, which is a form of attention for them, a way to receive attention, right? And it can start to go down a road where it starts to feel very chaotic to the other people on this professional team. Okay, or in this department. Chaotic and inflexible energy, I would say, would be fair. So where does that stem from for the 4? In part, it stems from and again, the Enneagram types are formed up to age 21, like between birth and 21, right? We're forming who we are and figuring out how to get our needs met as young people, children, babies, children, young people. And in doing that, our type begins to form, right? So as we figure out how to get our needs met, our type is forming. Now we don't know this, right? Most of us don't know the Enneagram when we're kids, right? But this is a person, this picture, this example, is a person who could have, most likely was abandoned. Now, abandonment can look literally, it can look like somebody leaving, okay? Or it can just be somebody not being present to this person when they were a child. So how did they get their needs met, right? By being by trying to be super special, super unique, super creative. Look at me, that kind of, in the child, right? And when we're not Enneagram informed or doing our work in other ways, the Enneagram is certainly not the only way to evolve. But when we're not doing that work, we end up being that child who's still looking for the attention, a way to make sure that people don't abandon you, that people pay attention to you, that people see your value. Okay. So that's one team member in this department, this hypothetical department that I'm giving you for the example. So, and that four also has a little bit of a three wing. So they like to perform as well. They like the limelight. They're a little competitive. They like a challenge. They like to win. Okay. So you have this unbalanced four and this shadow of the unbalanced three in there too, right? And they're in charge of this department or this project, whatever, however we want to lay this out. And then we have another member in this department who is an unhealthy three with a two wing. So the three is the achiever or the performer on the Enneagram, right? We already know that they have that point, these two people have that point in common where their energy can gravitate toward, right? One is a three, one has the three wing. So the three being the performer, the achiever, they like to be on stage. They love to win. They love to compete. They're great at adapting because adapting helps you win in their view. Okay. And again, we're talking about somebody deep in their shadow, right? This is not somebody who knows the Enneagram, who's doing their work. Okay. So we also call them the chameleon on the Enneagram in their lower expression, right? Because they'll kind of size up the situation and they'll adapt to meet the situation in order to win, succeed, meet the goals. A lot of times they will it's that idea of win. We talk about win at all costs with the unhealthy three, right? So it's kind of knock down whoever's in front of you in order to win, and whatever knocking down looks like. Um, both types can veer toward manipulation for different reasons. And this is where the dynamic can get real sticky, real intense. And if anybody else is in this department on this project, depending on what types they're coming from, it can be extremely destabilizing. And it's destabilizing when any type is in their lower expression in very different ways. But these two types, gaslighting is can kind of be taken to an art form, honestly. So we have this unhealthy three, who's also kind of like a facilitator on the project. The other one, the four, is in charge. The three is the facilitator. And that three has a two wing. So they're really good at giving. And everybody loves them because they're so giving and they're so helpful. And they'll kind of, the two will anticipate, the unhealthy two especially, will anticipate your needs before you ask for anything. So it's like, it's right there. I know what you need. Here you go. So who doesn't like that in the workplace when you're under pressure and you have somebody who can anticipate, the next thing that's needed, right? So it makes things easier, right? So we have this dynamic, and they're both heart types. Okay. So there's this deep feeling energy in both types. Okay. Four is going to be deeper on the feeling spectrum though. I would say three is more, it's a fine line, but three has more of the emotion, like the dynamic kind of emotion that the three is going to bring. It's that performance three. More sentimental is probably the better way to describe the three. And then with that two wing, the three not only gives, but because they're unhealthy, they give to get. So they're anticipating not only your needs, but how this may come back and work for them. Um, I knew an unhealthy two way back who would talk about collecting people. And I always thought that was like a crazy phrase. But you know, like you can collect favors, right? You hear that expression, but she actually said she collected people, that she did favors for and basically did collect favors from them. But she actually said collect people. She collected people. So, so it's really interesting what different Enneagram types will do and say when they're in their unhealthy, or I'm not even going to say unhealthy because it is that, but the uninformed state of the type. Because unhealthy implies that you've done something wrong by not learning the Enneagram. And sometimes, you know, some of us have opportunities and others don't, right? I'm eternally grateful for the opportunity that the Enneagram gave me, but I didn't always know about it. So there's that to consider too. So people can't change what they don't know. There's a Maya Angelou quote that's on my website. When you know better, you do better. And I think that's what the Enneagram helps us do. So again, to get back to these two people, so we've got this three with the unhealthy two wing, or the unhealthy three with the two wing, who facilitates this project. So they're in a helper position, as a secondary position. Because they're unhealthy as a three, they're a chameleon. They adapt. They can kind of size up and kind of shift real quick to match what is needed. We mentioned they're giving and they give to get, right? Well, what I haven't mentioned yet about the three is in their lower expression, they're deceitful. So threes are not only deceitful to others, but they deceive themselves. So they put on this show, and they start to buy into the show, and they lie to themselves the whole time that this is a show. It's just, they've just got to do it. They just got to win. Let's do it. Let's get it done. Let's win. Let's be the best, you know, that kind of thing. So the three has the deceit in there, and that deceit um, can really go to different places depending on how unhealthy and how uninformed some people are. So this three is seeing the opportunity to win at all costs, right? They're on the project, but they wouldn't mind being in charge of the project. They're not. They're the second string, but well, you never know, right? If I do a really good job and if I really show off to the boss and, you know, really make myself look good at any cost, I might move up the ladder quicker. I might achieve that goal. I might perform and do better, right? I might get that raise, however we want to make this look, right? And again, this is a hypothetical thing that I'm giving you here. But here at this point, we start to go down the drain between the three and the four. Um, because we have two people that are living in their shadow, they're uninformed and living in their shadow, right? So the only thing that can really play out until anybody's inspired to do things differently is it's just gonna go downhill in this blending of shadows of two types. So so now that you have this scenario, right, of this, you know, workplace, this project, and four is in charge of it, and the three is the helper, and the three wants to succeed, and the three is kind of sizing up where they need to adapt to maybe show up that type four, to maybe take over the project. Um, Pretty tough work environment, right? I mean, you wouldn't want to be in that, would you? Um, I wouldn't. I wouldn't want to be in it. I think anybody who's Enneagram informed would not want to be in this, except maybe the eights who would want to go in. The eights and the ones probably would. The ones would want to reform it. The eights would want to challenge it. And we're not going to go down the rabbit hole of what the other types might be because theoretically all nine types could come to this party. But where I want you to go next with this is I want you to now take this from some kind of a, corporate work setting, and let's switch this into a family. So the name of this episode is How Does the Enneagram Save Lives? Okay. And when I came up with that title, I was thinking of little lives, kids. Okay. And I've done a couple of episodes before on the Enneagram and kids and parenting. And this isn't really, I mean, you can go back and watch some of those. I did one for each type. But this is more a scenario of just like seeing how the ripples turn out. And what happens here, right? So in the workplace, bad enough, but everybody is an adult, right? Some may be enneagram-informed, the two at the top of this are clearly not. But we're adults, right? We have choices, we have control to the degree that you can have in the work setting, I guess. But we have, as adults, we have autonomy, right? As kids, not so much, right? So I want you to imagine that this, as I said, is not a corporation or a work setting, but this is now a home. And you have a young child who's caught between these two people who are their parents, the four and the three. Okay. So what does this look like to the child? Drama, manipulation, um, I would say probably hidden rage that could also be outright rage. You'd probably see that more out of the low four, the parent who's the low four, because fours can have a very volatile, emotional level of anger outbursts. That comes from this uniqueness that they have, this unique way of seeing and feeling everything. So they're just so compressed emotionally, compressed, like pressed in on them, right? They just feel so pressed in by what nobody else can see, feel, or understand that they can just blow up. A four's anger can look like an eight's anger. So if you're a little familiar with the Enneagram, you'll understand what that means. So again, drama, manipulation, hidden or maybe not so hidden rage. Okay, depending on how things escalate. Certainly chaotic, right? We mentioned chaotic in the work setting, but think about chaos for a child. This child is watching this drama. We're in the middle of this drama and doesn't know how to be, right? There's inconsistency in the home, and there's gaslighting. Both types can do a fair amount of that. And we do have basically all of the heart energy in play because we have the two wing in there with the three, right? So we're dealing with two energy, we're dealing with three energy, we're dealing with four energy. All right. And we have this child who doesn't have an Enneagram type yet because that doesn't form until the child's 21, right? But it's forming. All right. So, and there are 9 ways to react to what's going on in this dynamic between these two unhealthy parents, right? Who have no other tools to work with. It's how they've always done it. That's how they're still doing it, right? So this gets back to, my idea of the Enneagram saves lives, well, certainly saves relationships. And you could make an argument for that's saving lives, right? Because if we have healthy relationships, we have better lives, right? We communicate better. We can see each other. We can understand each other. We can give and take. We can express our needs instead of just acting out as, or just as a reaction to what we, feel, instead of just, exploding or say being spiteful or manipulative, right? So I'm going to now ask the what if question here. Okay. What if these two people, these two adults in this home, knew their Enneagram? What if somewhere along the line somebody said, "Hey, there's this thing called the Enneagram, and it helps us form healthier relationships, healthier boundaries. It helps us understand each other, since we can interact with those around us in a more functional, meaningful way, right?" So, and they're like, "Oh, okay, well, I'm going to go learn about that. I'll get a book, or I'll take a class, or whatever." And so, let's say even one of those two parents is Enneagram informed, the dynamic changes. Okay, it has to. Once we become aware, again, it gets back to that Maya Angelou, Angelou quote, once we know better, we can do better, right? But if you don't know, you can't do anything different other than what you've always done. Okay. So it starts with awareness. Okay. The Enneagram is an awareness game. Okay. So first question to you, what if these people, both of these people, ideally knew their Enneagram? I mean, what an amazing experience that would be for that child to have two parents who understand who they are, understand their shadow, are familiar with their higher self, and are coming from their higher self most days. We all go to our shadow. It's not like once you learn the Enneagram, you're always on a higher plane. Yeah, no, it doesn't work like that. You have a shadow, you'll go there. We all do. Okay. But you're not living from there all the time, which is what most other people are doing, right? They're reacting instead of interacting. Okay. So my next question is, what if the four understood that their shadow, all of those, qualities that I had described about, being special, being unique, being manipulative, thinking they were the only creative person that could ever do anything. So what if that four understood that their shadow was actually tied to being abandoned or feeling abandoned as a child? So now that four has got work. And, what do? We pass things on to our kids, right? So there's an inspiration to make some changes. The four has, again, the four is a heart type, right? The four wants good, deep, quality relationships. This four theoretically wants to have that with their child, but they're not Enneagram informed, right? But when they get Enneagram informed, whole other different kind of parent can emerge. That deep feeling parent, deep presence. Um, the parent that can be there for that child when the child's having a really terrible day. Because they're good feelers, they're great feelers, right? And they're actually good at communicating feelings and talking through feelings. The dark, ugly ones that a lot of people don't like to have, a four parent can do that. So, just think about that just by doing the work around acknowledging the wound of being abandoned when they were younger. Just acknowledging that wound helps them transform as a parent. We've got this little life, saving that little life, right? And then let's look at the three. So what if that three could come to understand that they could be loved, even if they didn't achieve the goal, win the prize, get the recognition? Okay. Um, you lost the big tennis match. And not that anybody's giving you a prize for losing. I'm not talking about that kind of stuff. That's a whole other story. But let's just say to know that you have value to the people who are in your life, the people who love you, that they value you, even if you screw up and you didn't meet the goal. What if that three knew what it was like to be loved or be secure in being loved without having to prove themselves by achieving something, whatever that achievement is, getting straight A's that semester, getting the trophy, whatever it looked like when they were a kid. What if they could just be loved for being who they were, whether they won, whether they lost, right? Um, what might that person look like as a parent? Um, that would be the parent who could sit with you through losing or not being chosen, or the breakup that happens, for a teenager, let's say, right? Just talk about the different level of presence that you can bring, as opposed to what would be happening in this family otherwise, which is, complete chaos and inconsistency. Um, Rigidity, inflexibility, right? And maybe even some backbiting with the three wanting to show up the other parent who's the four, and I'll show you who's, who can, be better at this parenting thing. So you're in a competition now with your partner to be the better parent, and there's this little kid, right? Who's just trying to be a little kid. So yeah, the Enneagram can save lives, little lives and big ones. So I want you to think, I want you to think about your Enneagram in this context and the people that you come into relationship, whether it's in your family, in your home, whether it's in your business relationships, whether it's in your peer relationships, whether it's at church, whatever organizations you're involved in. What do your relationships look like, and which ones are really, really good, and which ones are, yeah, not so much? Okay. The yeah, not so much. I want you to look at that. I want you to look at where your shadow might be triggered because, our shadows get triggered. Um, and what might be going on with that other person? And it's not for you to figure out their Enneagram type. It's not for you to type them, to analyze them. It's not that. But if you can just find, and you don't have to know what their type is. In Chinese medicine, I'm going to give you an example. In Chinese medicine, we feel the pulses, and my patients always think that I'm feeling, for the speed. And we do. It's one of the things that pulses tell us about, just that tells us if there's hot or cold in the body. There's a lot of other things we get from the pulse, different qualities in the pulse that tell us different things that are going on in the body. So if you use the Enneagram, not to land on a type for somebody, again, not to type them because that's never our place. Your type is very personal. It's deeply personal to you. Um, but what I'm really talking about is compassion, energetic compassion. If you can feel the energetic pulse of somebody in a room who maybe had crappy upbringing, a parent who wasn't there, or maybe literally wasn't there, maybe a parent who passed away, a parent who left, um, or just a parent who was physically in the room and might as well not have been. Okay. And that's again, this is with the four example, but whatever it is that you feel in the energetic pulse in this person that you have a not so good relationship with, just try to be in compassion with that and then bring it back to you. Okay, bring it back to you because that's at the end of the day, that's the only thing you've got to work with. Okay, your Enneagram, what you do with it, how you redirect your energy, how you take that breath in and ground yourself, how you get out of your head, how you open your heart, how you relax and open your body. Okay, that's all. I hate to tell you, it's as simple as that and it's as hard as that. So that's all you got at the end of the day is you. And I believe your sensitivity and your compassion and your open-mindedness toward others. And you don't have to know their type. You can get a sense of it. If you do get a sense of it, don't make a thing of it. Please don't tell them what you think they are. Don't do that. But just bring it back into your heart and say, they were suffering. They were suffering in that person's life somewhere. And that's what's being expressed in their behavior right now. And it's irritating. It's difficult. I'm stressing out over it. But at the end of the day, that person's struggling and it came from something long, long ago, and I can be compassionate about it. And you may have to, take a little walk and go around the block a couple of times. I'm not saying you're Mother Teresa, but try it. Try it out. See how it works. I find it works. Um, so, um, so yeah, little lives, saving little lives, and all of us got here as little lives. So we're all kids here first. So the Enneagram saves lives. So, so yeah, let me know what you think about that. I'm going to post one of the videos about the parenting series, so you can take a look at that. And if you're interested, find the one that relates to your type. Watch them all if you find them interesting. Um, and I would love to know your thoughts again. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share. If you would like to work with me, I will leave that information in the show notes. There's a free discovery call. It's the best way to begin working with me. We can kind of talk about what I do, what I offer, where your needs are, how I can best help you. So I do spiritual direction. I have just regular, plain old spiritual direction sessions where you can meet with me. Most people do that once a month. If you do want to commit to once a month, I do have a membership for that, just for spiritual direction with the Enneagram. Those two things I do together. If you don't know the Enneagram and you don't want to use the Enneagram, we don't have to. I certainly do spiritual direction without the Enneagram as well. Most people end up doing the Enneagram with me. Then I have a different type of session where you work with me for 90 minutes. And that is using spiritual direction, the Enneagram, and your astrological chart. So we look at the overlap there, and I've done episodes on how that works together, and you can check that out as well. So I also have memberships available for that. That's at a pretty deep discount if you want to do a membership with the astrology, with the spiritual direction in Enneagram. And then I also have my course, Smart But Stuck, for people that want to use the Enneagram to just get unstuck. You're in the same pattern over and over again. You're doing all the things that everybody else tells you to do, or you're watching what everybody does and it's successful for them, and it's not happening for you. This course is designed for that person that wants to break those patterns, understand why they're happening. So that course is available. I'll have a link in the show notes about that. And I also have a free webinar on how to create healthier boundaries in your relationships through the Enneagram. So I'll have all of that in the show notes for you. Thank you for being here. I really encourage you to get creative with this idea of how to bring yourself out of shadow. And if you're working on your Enneagram, but you're in a relationship, whatever kind of relationship, again, could be work, could be family, could be anything in between, but you're in a relationship with somebody who's completely Enneagram uninformed and coming from their shadow and you're having a hard time with it, go deeper into yours. Go deeper into yours because that's where it happens. Okay. Thanks so much for being here. I will see you next week.